Okay, so we're live here, and still no one's here. I'm hoping that some people pop in. Maybe there'll be a couple of people, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm just out here in sunny Las Vegas right now. Just kind of hanging out, being annoyed by all the fucking people walking by, annoying the shit out of me. And let's see. Anybody coming in? Oh my God. People with dogs, man. People walk their dogs in Las Vegas, which, by the way, I'm actually going to be moving out of Las Vegas. I'm not going to be here anymore. So, I'm going to be going up to the northwest, which is where I'm from originally. I'm not quite sure what city. But this is your chance. I'm going to go for 5 more minutes, you fucking dumbasses. That's all you're going to get. You guys have a chance to have me for probably a good hour and ask me whatever you want, but any questions? We got someone's here. What's up, man? How you doing? Yeah, so I'm just literally just walking around sunny Las Vegas right now. That is about it. You can ask me whatever you want, and I'll try and answer it. I'm not sure if I can demonstrate anything right now, but where are you from, man? Yeah. But oh, we're in the UK, man. Awesome, dude. I actually really want to come and visit. Got a lot of Irish in me, as you might tell. So we may have been at war at some particular point, our ancestors, but we're all good now. It's all peaceful. Yeah. Right on. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a really difficult thing to get. So I actually just made a video talking about the 2 different types of ways that you can scream on a note. So you've got kind of this compression scream that you can do. Oh, you're 14. I don't know, man. If you're 14, you might not want to sing yet. I think you probably, well, here's the thing. It all depends on how you've gone through puberty with your voice. So if you've gone through the stage where your voice is cracking and it's kind of, it's come out the other side of it, then generally speaking, you'll be fine. If you're someone like myself who never went through that, then you've got to wait until you're probably like 16, 17 to want to sing. Otherwise, you can damage your voice, especially if you're screaming. But I'll let you make that decision. That's up to you. But yeah, I mean, if you're younger, you're just going to have a smaller voice. And I mean, I would say just be careful with it. Don't push it too hard. But essentially, there's 2 ways that you can scream. There's 2 ways you can scream on a note. The first way is by doing the compression scream. So that's just the doing that type of stuff, where you're kind of grunting, and then you have to take that note all the way up through the upper register. Which the problem with that, with the compression scream, is that it's very, very strong in the chest voice, and so you have to get a lot of strength. It uses a lot of effort. It's pretty tough to do in the upper register. Although there are singers that do it, but they really, really, really have to thin out the chords and develop a lot of strength with the voice. It's hard to do. And so I personally can't even do it. So I don't even try. I tried for years to get that sound to sound right. It just doesn't work for my voice. And so I've tried to do it through the fry scream, which is kind of where M Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold sings. And that's more just learning to get the little trying to get that sound onto a note, which is pretty difficult to do. It's kind of like you have to learn the initial sound, which is just kind of letting it, let's see here. There's kind of 2 ways of thinking about it. The fry scream is going to make your voice probably a little bit more raspy, but it's just gonna be easier on the chords. Like, you're not straining to hit the notes. It's kind of like this. Like with the compression scream, you're getting really heavy in the voice, and you're kind of getting, you're holding back more air, and then it starts to scream. With the fry scream, it's kind of like you're letting air pass through the chords, and you get to a certain placement, and they start shaking. And so the fry scream, I personally think, is just easier on the voice. I think it's better, but it's really just a matter of what sound you're going for. There's plenty of singers that do it both ways, but the fry scream, if you learn that way, you're going to be able to scream all the death metal stuff. You're going to be able to really belt out some higher notes. So I mean, it's, yeah, you won't be able to do that with the growl. I mean, yeah, you got to really get your stomach into it with that. The fry scream, it's pretty easy. You know, it's not as hard. People are gonna call the cops on me or something walking around here. And so that's kind of your own thing, but with the fry scream, it's a finesse thing. It's like you've got a dial and you're like turning up the distortion. You want to get it, you want to pull it back as much as you can. So you don't want to try and do as much as you'd be able to. I mean, it'll just sound, oh, Architects. Okay, so Architects is very small, and I'd have to go back and listen to them again. One of these newer gent bands, I believe. It's whenever you get singers like that. I mean, I was a big fan of what was the band? It was maybe this is completely different, but what was the name of the frickin' band? It was a punk band. Anyways, they would sing in this kind of like "You know, gonna wait for me to say," like stuff like that, where it's kind of this whiny falsetto type scream, and that's actually pretty easy to get into. It's just people mistake it for a chest voice. It's a falsetto for the most part. Yeah, like there's me kind of pulling back on the voice there. You know, it's pretty easy actually to do. It's not very hard. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all kind of up to how you guys want to do it, and you just kind of have to use your own discretion. The less effort you're doing with the scream, the easier it's going to be on the voice. The better your clean tone is, which is the foundation of all screams, the easier it's going to be to do, the better you're going to sing. You know, if you can't do a clean tone, you're going to have some real problems with your voice, especially with screaming. It might be, man. Honestly, I'd have to hear you. And I'm unfortunately not teaching right now. I'm traveling around the country and doing all sorts of different things. And then I'm probably going to be located up in Spokane, Washington, maybe Seattle, if some people pull some strings and make me go up there. I kind of don't want to. The traffic's horrible up there. But I mean, I'd really just have to hear it. You can make a quick video and like send it to me if you want. Just something. But it's yeah, I mean, when I was like 15, 16 years old, I had a small voice, and I was always trying to get that deep grunge rock voice, you know? I was trying to get the Scott Weiland and Eddie Vedder and so on, not realizing that, you know, a lot of it was just that they had a deeper voice. And so it caused a lot of really bad habits. And so what I'd say is that, you know, go in and record your speaking voice. Listen to how you speak and try to emulate that particular size of your voice. You don't really want to be much bigger than that. Of course, as you're going up, you're going to yawn into it. So you're going to go towards the you want to yawn into it. But you don't really want to sing on a manipulated placement. And that's what I find younger kids tend to do. And if you're singing on a manipulated placement, it's most likely why you can't scream. Screaming is something that has to be very natural. It really is. The best screamers tend to sing from very natural placements. Like you hear a lot of these death metal singers, they start screaming, especially in the hardcore scene, Architects and other bands and so on, and you hear them screaming, they're like, wow, these guys can really scream. And then they have this natural thin voice that they sing through. And you're like, what the hell? These guys can sing too? some of these guys have huge ranges, and they've never been taught. But the reason why is because when you're screaming, the better screams are always going to be in a more natural place. And so when they go to sing, they're kind of singing through that screaming placement, and they're already in a pretty good place. Although, of course, you know, they don't know to open the soft palate up and bring the larynx down, and all sorts of different things that can just increase your tone. They don't know to do these things. And so, yeah, any other questions? Go ahead. I'm going to be here for a while. I'm literally just walking around. I'm fat. I'm trying to lose some weight. So that's what happens when you get older. Yeah, it's actually a really nice day out. A little bit too hot for my taste. I like to be in Iceland where it's like 32 degrees out. All right, so I'll just yammer on about stuff. Right on. Yeah, it's I've heard the UK you get rained on a lot. I heard that's the only issue up there. And so I lived in Portland, Oregon most of my childhood, and so I definitely know about the rain and whatnot and what it does to your skin, because it's kind of, I don't know, like if you're in a city where you at least get sun, if you're driving around in your car, you still get a little bit of sun. But these people from the Northwest here in the States, man, they're just freaking pale as hell. So I actually love the trees though. That's the one thing I do like. What's up, man? So we're just chatting here, taking questions. If you guys have any questions about singing, I'm going to go for about an hour. And you can ask anything you want about singing. So, yeah, this is this soccer field here that I'm walking on. I used to come out here every damn freaking day when I was young. 15 years old, I was out here like, man, it seems like it was like 10, 15 hours a day. It was crazy. And they just don't have either they just have terrible habits that have built up for a lot of years, or it's it's just a matter of genetics. They just don't have the genetics to do it. And it's kind of like running. It's kind of like sprinting. There's some people that are just really fast, and there's other people that just aren't. But I think it's more like running or sprinting rather than comparing it to height. Some people will compare singing to height. It's like, well, you're either tall or you're not. No, there's definitely a lot of technique. What I will say is this, though. Everybody does have the ability to sustain a note. Everybody does have that. Are you going to sing with the type of range that I sing through? No. Not everybody can do that. I'd say probably, oh man, if you work at it enough and you get the right technique, probably about 60 to 70% will be able to sing in that range. And some people will just be better than others. And I tend to have a pretty damn high voice. So, it might sound easy for me to do it, but, it's not going to be easy for everybody. That's for sure. But it doesn't mean that you can't create a cool character. I've got a friend of mine. He's a legit bass, and I mean, he smokes cigarettes all day long and drinks and whatnot. He's got a super deep voice. So G4, is that the, okay, I don't know the numbers on that. Is that the soprano note or is that the tenor note? That's about mine. If it's the soprano note, that's about my highest note. I never try and go higher than that. If you're stuck on a G4, and I think you said you were 14 years old, man. Yeah, you got some deep vocals, man. What you need to be doing, that's the tenor note. Okay. You want to be resonating right here. So it's the smaller resonance. Oh yeah, lots of screams. oh, you know, all that stuff. I'm not the best at it, but certainly learning. Yeah, I mean, Matt's a really good vocalist. He's an extremely well-trained vocalist, and he sings differently on City of Evil than he does on all the other albums, all the other ones where he was singing. I guess he sings on, what is it, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet? I forget what the album was. But, yeah, it's, I mean, for Matt, it's all technique, guys. He doesn't have the greatest voice in the world. I think we all know that, you know, and he blows it out almost every single night. You know, he sustains it because he does Ron Anderson's warm-ups every day. And, you know, he doesn't mess around with that. He does it like it's his religion. You know, every single day he warms up. In fact, I'll give you the exact schedule that he goes through. I talked to his manager about it one time. And first thing in the morning, he'll do all of his warm-ups. And it's not so much warm-ups really, it's more like exercises. And it goes for about an hour. He does all the different scales and everything. All the stuff that you would learn if you were studying with me. Which, by the way, let me just say, I'm not teaching at this moment. Traveling around the country, I will be teaching probably in a couple of months. So just keep a note of that. Make sure to like and subscribe, you know, I'll keep you guys tuned into what's going on. But yeah, he'll start out, you know, the lip bubbles, the you know, the basic exercises. Then you start out, you know, kind of working the chest voice. It's all the Ron Anderson stuff. He goes through that entire thing, does that first thing when he wakes up in the morning. Then, about an hour before the show, he does about 20 minutes of just warm-up exercises. Just stuff that's going to get his voice in the right spot. Does some screaming, does some just different things to get the gravel going and the rasp going on his voice. And kind of tries to figure out where his voice is at for the day. And that's what he does pretty much in terms of his routine. And then oftentimes he'll actually have Ron Anderson warm him up if it's a big show and he's having trouble. And that can be an interesting time. There's two things. I mean, you can just hear whether or not somebody has a good tone. I mean, there's tones that are just unattractive. How's it going? And so you listen to it and you're like, it doesn't sound good, and it's just his speaking voice. Like it's like this annoying nasal sound or something or whatever. You know, they sound like Kermit the Frog or something. Hey guys, you know, and you're just like, yeah, that's not going to work. And then you hear him sing, and you get them in as much of a natural placement as you possibly can, and you can kind of hear what's going on with their voice. Not in a band right now. I'm going to be doing some stuff here pretty soon, though. A lot of what I'm doing is actually just writing a bunch of songs, and so there will be some stuff that's going to happen. This dog is now chasing me. What's up, dude? He's a friendly dog, though, which is good. Not supposed to have dogs on the field, but whatever. All these signs everywhere. Yeah, I forget what the question was. You're asking if I was in a band. Not in a band. I should be in a band. But I've never really cared about being in a rock star or anything. Yeah, I play guitar, play a little bit of piano. I did jazz guitar at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Classical guitar before that at the Las Vegas Academy. So I definitely know my music theory. I have a book in the works on music theory itself, and so I can write a thing, man. I mean, it's not, once you understand how harmony operates and what creates value in music, it's pretty simple how it really works. You know, there's the whole theory of tension and release. Good guy to listen to for that would be Joe Satriani. If you want to listen to somebody who's really good at it. And, he'll play like a lot of times just on quarter notes. And, nothing super fast, yet you're like, wow, that's a cool melody. He makes it sound cool. He's just doing tension and release. So you'll notice he'll play a non-root note first, and then he'll release on a root note. It's kind of all he does on almost everything he plays. And then, if you want to add more tension, just play on the upbeats and so on. So, Yeah, that's kind of the direction I want to go. Not like audio production, but just more like producing that. It's just so much easier. Like being in a band is tough, guys. I mean, unless you, I mean, here's the thing: if you want to get fucked up every night and bang as many chicks as you possibly can and stuff like that, you can do it. You won't last very long singing the way that I'm trying to teach, but I mean, there's plenty of punk bands, so yeah, music theory is an interesting thing. It's like I said, man, I'm writing my own book on it, and I don't think I'm ever going to release it, just because most people that I show the concepts to just don't understand it, and it drives me nuts. It's like, no, this is brilliant. You don't get it, and then I explain taking tension and release, and I've broken it down with psychological principles in terms of why it works. So yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I mean, music theory. I mean, what I would say with music theory is that you want to learn the basic 4 chords first, especially if you're trying to be a singer. You've got essentially 4 chords that you can work with that are going to sound good in minor, and then you've got about 4 chords that are going to sound good in major, and all the other chords are kind of accent chords. So you've got the in minor, you've got the root, you've got the 7th, you've got the 6th, and then you've got the 3rd. You've got kind of those chords. So yeah. Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I do most of my stuff online, and so I don't really have any students come in and take lessons from me. So that's the only thing. Yeah, there's pop music is an interesting thing. I mean, here's the thing about music theory, guys. You want to figure out what is driving the band. That's what you've got to figure out. What's driving the music? And so if it's that you have, let's just say that you're a woman and you're super cute, and you can kind of play the sexy model or whatever. If you can play that particular character, that's what's going to be driving the music. Britney Spears and so on. Her music doesn't have to be good at that point. Where you look at a band like Dream Theater, and what's driving that particular band is the ability of their musicianship. And so you have to ask yourself, what is it that's driving the band? And once you figure that out, what people are listening to the band for, what's the driving force behind it, then you can kind of take that and you can get creative around the entire thing. And so my phone's going to die here in a second. I've got 10%, so might have to call it here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's really what I would say about it. You've got to find the driving force behind the band, behind the music. I'm a huge Chris Cornell fan. I think you guys get that already. Probably talk about him in every video. And rest in peace. It's really sad what happened to him. But he was the driving force, obviously, behind Soundgarden. And so Soundgarden had an opportunity to write a lot of very, very interesting melodies. Same thing with any of the projects that he's ever done. It never really had to fit the typical pop chord progressions that you hear. In fact, I don't think he ever really played a 4-chord song. Not a typical chord progression, at least. He always kind of played, on Temple of the Dog, he certainly did, but they were certainly not the typical chord progressions you're going to hear Lady Gaga singing on, And so it didn't matter because his voice was the driving force behind the band. And you could say the same thing with Pantera. Well, what's the driving force behind Pantera? You listen to Phil's voice back on Power Metal. Unbelievable range, unbelievable voice. But Phil's voice was not the driving force behind Pantera. It was Dimebag's guitar playing. That's what people wanted to hear. And so, and Phil knew that, and he's a real team player. And so he changed up the way that he was singing, and maybe he's, the things that he's saying, like, I can't hit the ball squeezers anymore, the ball's dropped, or whatever he was saying. And maybe that is true. But I would certainly, it was a really unique sound, really original sound, the whole groove metal thing. And so once you get that, once you figure out what the driving force is, then you can basically be creative around that. And that's kind of all I'm trying to get at with that. So, music theory in terms of classical music theory, it's just a fucking sound. It really is. And I can go into Bach and explain to people why psychologically it works so well. It's really, it's a long subject to be honest. But it's just a sound. It's like in jazz, you have like all sorts of different sounds you can play with. There's all sorts of different things you can do. And so I would just make sure that you guys understand that, like, okay, so you know that like thirds create emotion. Okay, cool. You can have chord progressions, and you change with the chord progressions, that can create emotion. But you're trying to make the music as emotionally stimulating as you possibly can. And so that would mean with the lyrics as well that you don't always want the lyrics to be positive. Sometimes negative lyrics are better than positive lyrics because they're just more emotionally stimulating. And so, you know, look at somebody like Kurt Cobain from Nirvana that's writing. It's like, well, why does it? You know, it's all negative. It's all depressing. It's, you know, it's dark. You know, but the truth of the matter is that people are relating to the music from their own experiences, and so oftentimes the most negative things that have happened to people are the most stimulating experiences that they've had. And so when you're talking about lyrics and so on, I mean, it's oftentimes it's going to be darker things, you know, and it might just be a certain kind of breakup. It also could be a song about rape, which I obviously know the song by Kurt Cobain. So yeah, I mean, there's so many lyric books out there. What I would say is this, is that lyrics first and foremost have to be something that's going to resonate with somebody. And so you want to be coming from a placement that's, you guys ever heard of Carl Jung? You guys ever heard this guy? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. He has this concept called archetypes, okay? And essentially what it's saying is that there's like love would be an archetype. It's something that we evolved around. And so if you want to be general in terms of how we evolve, love will be something that everybody would want. And that's why most likely love songs are the most popular songs. You flip it on the other side, you have anger, for example. And this might be why Metallica is such a success in terms of the way that they were successful, because they epitomized anger as much as you possibly could. They certainly took it in a pretty good direction in terms of really being wide with their niche rather than focusing in on a really small niche, which is kind of what Mustaine did for Megadeth. You know, he made a sound that was a little bit more, you know, that people don't like it. I think there's probably more diehard fans for Megadeth than there are Metallica. And, you know, don't quote me on that. I get some guy like screaming at me on here. But it wasn't quite as mainstream of a sound because the emotion was a little bit different. That was more of like a punk attitude, which of course it's all comes from punk, but it was just a different way of doing it, and less conventional. But then again, it's more niche. So hopefully that makes sense. But you want to be focusing on a very broad emotion and then getting creative with that. Love songs are the most popular songs, and it has to be an emotion that people are going to relate to, and so that's what's going to cause people to feel something. And that's why people like certain bands, is because they feel what the emotion is. If they feel it, that's pretty much it. Any other questions? My phone's gonna die here, so probably do another one. Maybe I'll do another one of these tomorrow or the next day. We'll see. Anything else? Anything else? Let's see here. All right, I'll give you till 30 minutes here. I'm gonna close out. All right. Yeah, just hit me up. I'm not really doing much. I'm just traveling around, so. I'm not sure. Probably around the same time. Probably around a similar time. And if you want to, you can put the questions that you want to ask in the comment section on here. You know, if after they close up the video here. But interesting. Okay, cool. All right, guys, I'm taking off here. It's good talking with you.